Go.
Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Welcome back. It's been a while. The last time I saw you guys, it was last year, right? So I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. It's been a very interesting year for me, especially the closing months of last year. And the year has started with challenges, but it has many blessings that came about in spite of the various challenges. So, again, welcome and Happy New Year to you and your family. I really appreciate the support last year, and we're just asking you to keep on the journey with us this year as well. So this is gonna be episode one, but it's season two. So it's a weekly aviation reports, season two, and this is gonna be episode one. I have a very interesting lineup for you with stories this week. And before I get into that, I just want to encourage you to give a thumbs up to these videos if you like the content. Leave a comment below to let me know at least where you're watching from and how are these impact or these stories being a benefit or a blessing to you. And please subscribe to the channel and please share the content with family and friends and those that you think that can benefit from these stories. Without further ado, let's get straight into our report. I want to say congratulations to our two winners from last year. So last year we had two winners. One of them is from the US. I think it was Isaac Kennard was the first winner. And then after him, Ian from Jamaica, he was messaging me through WhatsApp. He was a second winner. So I want to give away another cookbook. So far I don't have much freebies to give away, but I want to give away another missionary kitchen cookbook. It's an electronic book. We've sold out all the hard copies maybe about 2 years ago, but we still have the soft copy or the ebook version. So in order to win this, you have to listen to the rest of the feed. The question is gonna be at the end of the feed, and the prize is gonna be my cookbook. So usually I would ask the question before, but now I'm gonna ask the question at the end of the sharing of the report. That's when I'm gonna ask the question. So stay tuned for that if you want to win one of our freebies or missionary cookbook. Basically, closing off the year, I had the privilege of meeting up with my mentor and brother, Captain Sean Knapp, over there in the Palawan Project. Basically, the very first time I held the control of a Cessna 172, it was with Captain Sean Knapp. I know him back from the U.S. during medical missionary training, both him and his wife. And then after I got my license and I came to the Philippines, he was the one that mentored me and trained me how to navigate an airplane here in the Philippines. So the years ended with me, actually started rather, with me meeting up with him and just tagging along on a couple of his medevac flights. And I'm going to tell you why I was tagging along with him shortly. We went to various little islands, and it was just interesting. I mean, you're flying over the waters for an hour and a half, and then you come up on these tiny little airstrips and these small little islands, and we had patients with us on board. So he was returning a patient home, and he was transporting another one who was heading to the hospital. So it was just a huge blessing. We had a lot of time to just catch up on old times. We haven't seen each other for months. So it's always a blessing to be able to not just see him and fly with him, but to get some more mentorship. We talk on the phone and we text, but it's not the same as when you can interact in person with individuals. And as you continue to see the COVID requirements continue to excel. People wear their suit and face shield. Everyone is just armored up, especially when you have patients and the patients happen to be a certain age. There's a lot more protocol and procedures for those. So I was tagging along with him because, as you know, our airplane is down for maintenance. In other words, it needs an engine replacement. Our overhaul. And so while we are waiting for the finances for that, the idea dawned on me, um, why not borrow the reserve plane from his project? So, like, we don't have, they have two airplanes there, we don't have any at all. So, why not borrow that one temporarily? Even though you're gonna see some challenges here of that airplane. It can do things, but not everything. But at least, as Jamaican would say, half a loaf better than none, which is a half of a bread. Actually, I even do have a half a loaf right here. If you have half a loaf of bread, it's way better than none at all. While I was there, I had the privilege of meeting this brother, Sir Mario Macaroni. I remember I got a friend request I get a lot of friend requests. Half these people, I have no idea who they are. And so, I do filter requests as much as I can. And so, anyways, I saw this plane, this one landed at that other air base where I was visiting to pick up that airplane. And I was like, man, that's a cool airplane. I walked up to it and I saw this on the thing. You're not able to see it. The quality changed, but it says mission airplane for Philippines or Palawan, something like that. And this airplane has a story behind it. It took years for this thing to be shipped, put together, and be ready for mission aviation here in the Philippines with a particular ministry called Adventist Frontier Missioners, or AFM, right? And so they've been praying for years. I saw the pilot and I said, hey, is it okay if I tag along with you? Because he just put it together a couple of days and he was doing some test flights to check the engine temperature and everything, the performance. And he needed to go back to where he departed from, which is like a less than 5 minutes flight. So I said, can I tag along with you there and he'll come back to the base? He's like, yeah, sure, you have a headset? Like, yeah. So we did the flight, we talked, we interact, and so on. And then I left, and when I left, another missionary pilot, he took a photo with him as well and tagged him in it. And I said, oh, so he has Facebook. I clicked on the name, and then I was gonna send him the videos and the photos that I took when we did our flight together, only to find out that he's the same person that had sent me that friend request. And I was like, he never said anything. I didn't recognize him at all. But I was like, man, so I started messaging him, Sir Mario, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was you, etc., etc. So that was just a huge blessing to see another missionary airplane. And I think I needed to see this too because the 182 that I was flying, it can bring a lot more fuel. It can go long range, and then we're gonna substitute that temporarily for a small airplane. It's a four-seater. It has less engine power to it. It can hold way less fuel than the first one. So seeing someone with a two-seater airplane like this still doing mission aviation was very inspiring to me because I'm realizing that it's not about the size aircraft that you have. It's ministry. Use whatever God has entrusted you with. You might can do more with a bigger airplane, a faster airplane, etc. Or you can do more for God if you had more of this or more of that. But I've learned a lesson in the beginning portion of this here. Be content with that which God has blessed you with. Be faithful with that until He sees it fit to entrust you with more. So that was just a huge blessing. While I was there before I took the airplane, we have Cap Ronald here. He is the one flying that airplane at the moment. And he had a medevac that he wanted. I said, one more for the road before I borrowed this airplane. And I just took this photo of him and Nurse Laurie. They had done a mission together. She's the flight nurse and he's the pilot that flies. And it was just a huge blessing for me to be back in this project. And I'll tell you why. 1 year ago, this was where I started out. When I did my first inaugural flight by myself, first mission, it was at this project. with this airplane. So when I go back to that project, I have so much memories to reflect on. 3 weeks before I went to the US in 2015, I spent 3 weeks at this air base, getting the hang of and also exposure to what mission aviation is all about. I was tagging along with Captain Sean Knapp at the time, and I spent 3 solid weeks seeing the areas, being a part of the flight, helping around the project, etc. And so when I went to flight school, I had a very good idea of what is going to be expected of me, what is the environment going to be like. And throughout my training, it really helped me to be more focused. So right after they did that medevac, the next, I think a day or two after, I finally was able to refuel the airplane and I took to the skies. And I'm going to show you guys the distance that I had to cover to go get the airplane and to take it to this air base itself. It was a really beautiful day. So, we're in the rainy season. It's raining outside as we speak. And so when you find days where your entire round is just beautiful blue skies for miles, you really praise the Lord for an environment like that, because in the rainy season you don't see that quite often. There's a lot of low pressure and various typhoon and all these things happening, red cells and buildups and all these things on the radar. But when I was transporting this airplane, the weather was perfect, but the winds were very strong. My ground speed was crazy. I was barely going over the ground. And the only thing I kept comforting myself with is, well, it's faster than the boat, it's faster than driving. But flight wise, I was barely moving over the ground because of the strong winds. I was not by myself. I was not by myself. Believe it or not, I had a missionary with me. He wanted to go and help his mom with some therapy treatment, etc. We did some work together for a couple years. When I first came to the Philippines as a medical missionary, I was in a school up north in northern Luzon. I was teaching other people to other young people, various classes assigned to me, and this was my director during the time when I was a teacher in a medical missionary training institution here in the Philippines. And so it was just a blessing. He didn't have a headset, unfortunately, so we couldn't talk much, but it was always a blessing. Actually, this was his second time to fly with me. I had transported him and his other companion before to a further, much further place where they needed to go and make some arrangement for some other training programs. So second time again, it was just a blessing to be able to tag along with him. I took that photo when we landed. The winds were very strong on final approach because this airplane, it's 150 horsepower, and the other one that is in need of the engine, that's 230 horsepower. So this one is like coming from that bigger airplane to this one. I felt many times like I'm just this feather in the wind, because when the wind would blow you and the plane reacts to it, etc. I'm like, oh Lord, help me. And so we had to fight. I had to fight a little bit for the crosswind, and then it became a headwind, etc. But praise the Lord, I got that airplane safely on the ground, and I dropped him off. Not only that, the patrol was with me at the location, so I was able to get him, give him a ride to a part of his destination where he had his brother pick him up to take him to their parents' home. So I got the airplane back at base, and I received a phone call for another patient. Not gonna get into details of this patient here, but her illness basically reminded me a lot of what my mom went through when I was really young. She had the same challenges like this lady, so helping her was close to my heart, and it was just a huge blessing to use this little airplane to help. Here's just a little video, a little snapshot of en route. As you can see, my ground speed was just like 64 knots, just putting along over the ground. And my destination is right where this thing ended. and it was gonna be a really, really long day flying over the waters. For safety, I was within gliding distance of various islands where I could land either on the shoreline, and there were airports in some of the vicinity of those islands. So we always hug those islands while we navigate over the water, just in case we have an engine failure or any emergency, we can easily divert to those locations. As I was getting closer, wind started picking up a little bit better. But right over this island, right here, this last piece coming up over Mumbarao, the winds were so strong. And because the airplane is so slow, um, it took me forever to get across this little piece of island along my route. And I was just like, praying and just pitching for my best speed that can maneuver the heavy turbulence I was experiencing, even though there were no clouds at all. It's clear air, but you have all that thermal and warmth coming from the island, and it was just tossing me all over the place. Going into Palanan now to do this mission, I want to just show you guys the difference between both airplanes. So I'm gonna just zoom in here a little bit. If you look a little bit to the north here, you will notice it says 3,707. That's actually the altitude of the terrain. So to get to Palanan, I crossed the what you call the Sierra Madre. South of it, this is 5,036 feet. So when I'm going into this, the route is to come down through this valley between the mountainous terrains. And oftentimes, the winds are pretty strong in that area. So having this airplane here temporarily, it's not the most ideal airplane for the north, mainly because it doesn't have as much engine power to fight stuff. So I remember um, I contacted my contacts and I told them we have an airplane temporarily, but we are reserving it mainly for life critical patients and stuff that's time critical. And when we do have missions, we just want to have one patient, one watcher, because the lighter the airplane is, the more safer and the better it will be. So it was not easy to break that to these contacts. And then after I'm doing various missions, I remember, wait a minute, I haven't contacted my contact in Batanes. I tried calling him, didn't get through. So I know a lot of them follow my posts and stuff on social media. So I sent out a message and I said, just letting you know, the airplane that we have temporarily until we can get the engine for the other one, it does not have the range to go all the way to Batanes. So whatever is happening in that area, unfortunately, we cannot extend our services because this airplane is way slower. It cannot hold as much fuel, and so when it comes to Batanes missions, it's something that we cannot help with at all. So unfortunately, we're just catering for the coastal town for now, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But basically, those are kind of the considerations. Now, when it's time to come back, the thing is, getting back, I have to like stay south, close to the water, and like circle climb before I cross the Sierra Madre. Because personally, as a pilot, I like to be at least 15 to 2,000 feet above these mountainous terrains if I'm gonna fly over them. If I'm flying between them, I still want to have a certain altitude that can give me a fair enough glide distance where I'm not gonna clip these mountains. But with this airplane, it cannot climb as fast, especially if it's heavy. So when I take off, I tell them, hey, you're just gonna notice I'm gonna do a circle and climb before we cross over the Sierra Madre mountain. I was able to do that twice, and along with the trip, this was Pastor Mel and his wife and his son. They are visiting with us to get some different things for the church and for their personal need, etc. and it was just a blessing. I remember I did have a headset when we were flying along, so I'm talking with Pastor Mel, and just getting little updates from him, etc., and just sharing with him the difference between this airplane and the other airplane, basically. And he was like, "Yeah, it's really different." I said, "Pastor, when we go through turbulence, you're gonna feel the difference because this one is lighter, smaller, so it moves more. It's more sensitive to the change in direction of winds and so on. Nonetheless, it was still able to help, and I'm very grateful because it's better than nothing. Usually, when I go in that area and my lunchtime comes or there's any delay and I'm stranded for a while for a couple hours, Pastor Melky and his family will sometimes his wife, I show up last minute, she rushes into the kitchen and she prepares lunch and she prepares a meal. So when they came, I had the privilege of having them joining me at my table for a meal, and that was just a huge blessing for us. I said, Pastor, you always rescue me when I come to your area. Now it's my turn to share my meal with you. So we had that awesome meal together. In the mornings as missionaries, we come together in the hangar and we have our worship, we have our time and our prayer, and it's where we make that commitment. We put our lives in God's hands. We have our personal worship time, and then we do it corporately, just as a way of keeping ourselves in tune with God. We pray for the people we help, for the requests that might be pending, for the various missions that is on schedule, etc. And so Pastor was visiting with us, and we had asked him to do that prayer for us. We have children among us, the missionaries family, so they too. It's an opportunity to help train them and nurture them into these things because later on we're hoping, say, God, time is long enough and we get old, we would love for these children who are with us from birth all the way up to adolescents will be the ones to carry forward the work as missionaries and missionary pilots and volunteers and mechanics, etc. Some good news. We are 66%, 66% towards the goal here for getting that engine for the airplane. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to partner with us financially and support the cause in helping us to get back an engine for this airplane to put it back in services, you can go over to my website, by his stripes ministries 1844.com. It will ask you there to specify your donation. So just click um, airplane engine, and we will automatically get that directly and send it towards the airplane engine. So as you can see here, God is really providing, and this is within. I started the fundraiser, the closing weeks in December. I think it was the last week in December, and before I started it, 5,000 had come in, so we had 5,000 coming in again within a month, less than a month. And I'm very optimistic. I know God can provide. Many of you have been sharing the link. I really appreciate that. I do see those posts and I try to react and comment to it. So for all of those who have donated, and that's what I noticed too, that a number of you who have donated, you have shared your personal experience. I remember one person said, I support this ministry and this missionary pilot on a monthly basis. He has this need. I was able to make another donation for that engine. So I'm asking you, my friends here on my Facebook, to give something as well. And when I see things like those, it really inspires me to keep going because it tells me that I'm not alone. You guys are with me. You partner with me. You're praying with me. You're sharing the link. You're supporting financially from your own pocket and finances, etc. And I really, really, really appreciate those things. And the people that we help, they too also support those things. A breakdown here, we at closing moments in December, we launched two newsletters. So when you go over to the website, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, it's free. When you sign up, every time we, at the end of the month, we send out a summary of all that transpired within that month. If you want to receive that in your email, just go over to my website, by his stripes ministries 1844.com, put in your email address, and every time we launch a newsletter, it will come directly to your email. And if you don't want to sign up, you can, ever so often, you want to know what's happening with ministry and aviation, etc., you can go over to my website and you will see the newsletter there. For those of you who are not on YouTube, but you do use YouTube, if you don't get the live feed in the mornings, you can actually go to my YouTube channel and you will see a pre-recorded version that will be posted there. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what I wanted to share with you guys. So the question that I want to throw at you in terms of how can you get that freebie, which is the Missionary Pilots, the Missionary Kitchens cookbook. Here's the question. Okay, and it's gonna be a very hard question, but you gotta be ready for that. I want you to tell me, and I think if you don't have Facebook, you're not going to be able to get this one. But if you follow me long enough, you should be able to get it. Um, what was the illness of the first patient that I transported? What was the illness of the first patient that I transported as a missionary pilot? I'll give you one clue. It was a year ago. I did my very first medevac flight. And I want you to tell me, comment below on this video, what was the illness of the very first patient that I ever transported. And if you can get that answer correctly, you will enter into the grand draw. I will pull one of those names, and you might be the lucky winner to get a electronic copy of our missionaries kitchen cookbook. I'm very grateful. As I said, this is the end of the year. I mean, this is the beginning of the year, and we have come very far. I shared with you my last missions for last year. The statistics, the figures are just really amazing. Like, over a 1 year period, I transported over 180 plus patients, 300 plus family members, another 180 something watchers. That those are the individuals who accompany the patient when they're going to the hospital. I think it was over 2,000 plus something pounds of cargo, which includes food, medicine, equipment for various ministries, different things that doctors needed, etc. Some of them were stuff for the government. I remember I hauled more than 300 units of blood that was collected various times. Um, and I think I was able to fly about 300 plus. I don't have the statistics in front of me. I'm just going back from memory, but it was over 300 hours that I flew last year. And as I sit back and I look at those things, I really rejoice knowing that because of your prayer and your support, I was not out there by myself. I'm very humbled to be a part of the Philippines Adventist Medical Aviation Service as one of the missionary pilots. And it's just amazing with my story of where I'm coming from to what I'm able to do for the Lord today in ministry. And on that note, I got a message this week. I don't have a photo, but I have a message this week of someone who is a French writer, and she said, I want to get your story. And so I had an interview with her this week. It was about an hour. I enjoyed every minute of it. The questions were very unique, very different from some of the other interviews that I've done. And it was just a blessing. And she said she's gonna try and publish it next week. It's gonna be published in French and then in English. And people might be wondering, how am I getting all of these publicity, so to speak? I'll be honest with you. Every single person who messaged me to invite me on their radio station or TV or personal blog, etc., was not solicited by me at all. I'm just sharing what I share on social media. People are sharing these links and they happen to come in the presence of these individuals. And I always ask them when they come, I will ask them, what inspired you or attracted you to my story? And every single interviewer has a different perspective. They have a different reason. And most of what I'm getting, if I was to summarize everyone's request, it's simply about who I am as an individual in terms of where I'm coming from in my childhood to where I am today. And I can tell a number of them are not, they're not religious, like all of them are not religious per se. And so I know they're not promoting the church that I go to, my religious beliefs, etc. But they're looking at it from the perspective of how did this individual who was born against the odds with nothing come to this point of making the impact like this? And all I can say for it, I remember next week I got a phone call this week from one of those other person with the China Global Television Network that they're gonna publish my story in I think a Catholic journal of some sort, and that should be launched on Monday. So look out for that. He called me up. He said, "I have a few more questions." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Okay, why? What do you want? What message do you want to convey to those who are going to be reading this journal?" And I said to him, "Here's what I want to share, and I want to share it with you guys as well. What I want people to take away from my story is this: being a Christian, for me, made a world of difference in my life. Like, before I gave my heart to Christ, my life did not have much meaning. I look at where I am from. My mom was nothing. I didn't have a dad. We were very poor. We were struggling. We would go to bed hungry. I went to school without shoes. And life was just very hard. But when I gave my heart to Christ, I've learned now that not because of where I am from means that I cannot do certain things. Like, my walk with God gave me this faith and courage and inspiration and hope beyond where I am from and beyond my personal capabilities. And those of you who are following me, I don't want you to just get caught up in the flight and the stories, but I'm hoping to inspire you. If you are a Christian, I would like for you to have that kind of faith as well, to know that regardless of where I am and who I am and the people around me, etc., my relationship with God can help me to see this world in a different light. I can be optimistic about things that society says it's impossible. And that is the real message that I want to transpire to people, that I want people to get, that becoming a Christian and serving God, it's not about going to church on a particular day for me, or these doctrines or this belief. It's my relationship with God is what gives me that courage. It gives me the strength. It gives me the endurance. It gives me hope. It helps me on a practical, everyday basis of how I will survive in this life and in the life to come. I can say a lot more, but time is not our best friend. So, on behalf of Philippines Adventist Medical Aviation Services, the ministry that I'm very humbled to be a part of as a missionary pilot, and my little personal vlog stuff going on, flying by faith, I want to thank you for your prayers. I want to thank you for your support. I am excited to share with you guys episode 2 from season 2. So, season 2, episode 2. I'm excited. There's a lot of things lined up, and you guys just have to continue to keep in touch with me. Um, I can tell you quickly for next week. Um, the airplane that we've been using temporarily, it's going to be returned back to its base. The other pilot here is going to be flying it down to do some stuff to help out in that project for a couple of days, and then he's gonna leave the plane. Him and the director is gonna be coming up to work on this airplane, etc. So those are the things line up. So we thank you, we appreciate everything, and I look forward to sharing with you on the next episode. Until then, happy New Year, partner with God, and just continue to do the work and allow Him to provide the means. God bless, and mabuhay from the Philippines.